Great. Well, you can be the judge as to whether or not you were useful, Steve. I will stay within my 8 minutes, and I don't need a reminder until it's too late. Have a few slides to share. This is the market for beer. This product is much older than any of the digital products we're talking about by several millennia. In the United States and around the world, most of the beer we have now is made by two companies, Anheuser, Busch, InBev, and Heineken. This consolidation is something we've seen in a wide range of industries throughout the economy. As I hope I learned correctly, saying increased concentration could mean that there's more competition, that Walmart comes in, it's really efficient, it drives others out, and there's more competition. But it could also mean less competition if it's the result of less antitrust enforcement, greater regulations, other barriers to entry. I think in some sectors of the economy, it's pretty clear that the increased concentration is good. In the retail sector, which is in blue, you see more concentration, but you see lower markups and big gains in efficiency. In the healthcare sector, I think that's an example of a problematic increase in concentration in the United States. You see a similar increase in concentration to retail, but you see larger markups and very few gains in efficiency. Broadly speaking, hospital mergers let you raise prices. They don't actually let you do anything a whole lot better. I give you all of this preamble because for me, this is the context for thinking about Google, Facebook, Amazon, and other similar companies in China, like Alibaba, Tencent, and the like. Are they good sources or bad sources of growth? They've all grown enormously. In part, that's for good reasons, because they're like retail companies that have the efficiencies associated with retail. In part, that I think is for bad reasons, as they've made deals with themselves, with others, created technological standards and data that's a barrier to entry, and a certain amount of the size represents a series of mergers, all of which are unchallenged. So not the organic growth you see with Walmart, but something more like the mergers that you see with hospitals. So having in mind that there are both good reasons for the growth and bad reasons for the growth, to me, is fundamental for thinking about any policy issues. I chaired a expert review panel for the United Kingdom. We came out with a report called Unlocking Digital Competition nearly 2 years ago now. The United Kingdom is implementing all 6 of the strategic recommendations that I made in the report. Things like it are being implemented in the European Union and are under debate in countries around the world, including in the United States. Our analysis was very much motivated by this big picture good competition and bad competition story I was just telling you. And in particular, we went through several questions. The first is competition beneficial? That's not always obvious. If we're using a digital platform for a bad purpose, sharing child pornography, you don't actually want more competition. That's not the solution to that. I think it's beneficial to a lot of things, including to privacy, which is something that consumers value. And so with more competition, you get more of it. Second compound question, is competition absent? I think competition at the moment is absent. You could debate whether or not there's competition for the market. I think with each passing year, the argument for competition for the market goes down. Is the lack of competition costly? I think yes, in terms of quality, innovation, and the price you pay in the form of privacy and the like. And then you have to ask, could competition policy solve this and be an improvement? This in some ways is the hardest. Maybe you've convinced yourself that these markets are winner take most. They're prone to massive amounts of tipping, and you can never do anything about that. So you'd want utility regulation. I think that by taking some of the steps I'm about to outline, competition policy actually can work. And so I get to the right solution is I answer tentative yes here, definitely yes here, probably yes here, and gets me to pro-competition policy. What would pro-competition policy look like? Partly it is pro-competition regulation. And I recommended the establishment of a digital markets unit that would have three functions. It would establish who we called them strategic market status, the large companies with bottleneck power that you basically need to go through in order to do what you want on digital platforms. It would designate them and apply a code of conduct to them. The code of conduct is something that the UK has been developing and will be releasing in April. It's something that the European Commission also put out for comment in December. And broadly speaking, it's you can't preference yourself, you can't exclude others from your platform, you can't tell them they can't be on other platforms. It's not wildly different than what you have under antitrust rules already, but it is spelled out in more detail in advance. It's ex ante regulation, which I think works better in a world where ex post enforcement can take a decade. The behavior can move on, the market can move on, and the like. Second, data mobility and open standards. This basically says, rather than thinking of this as a natural monopoly, like the cable wires to your house, some of the monopoly is unnatural. It's based on technological standards, which are designed to make it harder to interoperate. And this would be regulation that would push more in that direction. I think this is the most important part of it, but I think traditional merger and antitrust enforcement has a role to play. I think there have been, missing too many false negatives where a merger was approved that caused a problem. We haven't seen any examples of a merger that wasn't approved that the lack of approval caused a problem. So I think we need to prioritize digital mergers and shift towards focusing on potential competition and future innovation, highlighting the relevance of data assets and taking into account transaction value. None of this lends itself to the precise econometric estimates of what happens to the price of gasoline if two gas stations merge. And so we're going to need to shift the evidentiary standards a little bit in order to accommodate this. Finally, in my last 10 seconds, there are efforts going on around the world. I don't think there can be a single global regulator or regulation in this area. I think what we should hope for, though, is convergent regulation that is similar in other similar countries around the world. That would be a little bit like antitrust rules are today. That would allow companies to have predictability and effective global operations. Thank you.